Should you outline your book or just wing it? Is it better to be a planner or a pantser? What is the very best way to plan your book? Well, let's talk about that today. Hello and welcome, or welcome back if you're a returning viewer. I'm Denis'Thomas, and I'm so glad that you've chosen to spend your time with me today. Today, I'm going to share with you how I plan out a book, and at the end of the video, I'm actually going to tell you the very best way for you to plan your book. So how do I plan a book? Well, first, I generate an idea. Ideas are really important because without an idea, there's nothing to draft. Then I sit with the idea. I'm a big fan of generating a lot of ideas and then just waiting to see which one stirs my interest, which one seems like a good fit for me to write at this time. So I just kind of wait for that. I call this my percolating time. This is when I'm informally considering whether I even want to invest in this writing project. Is this really something that I want to spend my time doing? Is this something that I think might be a viable idea that people actually want to read? That's all part of what I call the contemplation phase of writing. The next thing I do is I start to gather all my ideas about the book that I want to write. I usually do this in my journal initially, and it's just where I am just thinking, oh, this would be good for that book idea. Or maybe I'll just take 15 minutes or so and I'll just mind dump anything I can think of that relates to that book idea. And this is often part of that contemplation phase for me, because as I'm doing this, I'm really thinking about whether I want to write this book at this time, if it's going to be something that's worth doing. Not all of my ideas get planned into books, but if I've decided this is one that I want to commit to doing, then I start a new document. Now, I personally use Microsoft Word. You may use Scrivener or any other word processing type of program. It doesn't matter. Whatever you're comfortable using and will use is the best one for you. So once I've opened that new document, I'll add a title, I'll add a place for the table of contents, I'll add a placeholder for chapter 1, and then I will go down and make a new heading that I call the Messy Ideas List. The Messy Ideas List is where I start every book. It is where I put all of my ideas. So whatever I've generated in the journal, I go ahead and I pull into this new document. And then I spend time expanding that. Everything that I can think of that I want to go into this book, I just dump it in there. And at first it really is messy. That's why it's called the Messy Ideas List. Then I start to order those ideas a little bit, to group the ones that are similar and make sense together. So what I'm doing is I'm starting to create an order that will create a loose map for the inside of my book. And that then becomes my very loose table of contents. And so I just take those ideas in that loose grouped form and I put them up on that table of contents page, and this becomes my working table of contents. Now, at the end of the manuscript, I'll make a nice table of contents. I like to include hyperlinks into the chapter headings in my document. But all of that will happen way later. At this point, I don't know exactly how the book is going to go, but I now have a working outline. And I just call it the table of contents because the table of contents is basically an outline of your book. The next thing that I do is I take all of those ideas that belong in chapter 1 and I go ahead and I move them into chapter 1. Now, when I take the Messy Ideas List and I paste a loose outline of the book into the table of contents, I leave all the ideas in the messy ideas list. But when I take the ideas that belong into chapter 1 and I move them into chapter 1, I delete them from the messy ideas list. And the idea here is that that messy ideas list actually gets absorbed into your document as you are writing it. And so it becomes part of your manuscript. And if there's little tidbits that I don't ever use, they just get deleted when I'm done. Now, with those ideas in the chapter 1 section, the next thing that I do is I sort and organize those ideas into a loose outline form, and then I have a rough outline for chapter 1, and I start writing chapter 1. I will do that for every subsequent chapter. Just pull the ideas that belong into that chapter up, delete them from the messy ideas list, organize them into a loose outline form, and then write the chapter. Now, if you've been watching this channel, you may recognize that what I just described is the first 3 phases of the writing process. It is the idea generation, the contemplation, and the start stage of writing. If you want to know more about that, I have a playlist about the writing process, and you can find that linked at the end of the video. But before that, I promised you that I would tell you the very best way for you to write your book. Now, I've just outlined a very specific way that I write, which is somewhere in the middle between a planner and a pantser. I tend to love a really good plan, but when I'm writing, if I plan it in too much detail, I find that I personally don't enjoy the writing process as much because I've taken away the discovery of it. But I'm not really a pantser at all because I need some sort of a structure to begin with so that I have an idea, a roadmap of where I'm heading in the book. So what is the very best way for you to write? Should you be a planner? Or should you be a pantser? Or should you be somewhere in the middle like me? Well, the answer is to write in whatever way works for you. I know that may seem like a cop-out answer, but it's really true. You may have a writer that you admire tremendously and you love reading their works, but their particular writing method doesn't work for you. If that's the case, don't try to write like them because it's not going to work. Instead, figure out where your comfort level is. I didn't start off figuring out that my system needed to be loose enough for creativity, but outlined and structured enough that I knew where to go until I had done it. So if you don't yet have a method, try the method that I described today. If you do have a method and it's working for you, stay with it because that's how you write books. Well, however you choose to write your book, the ideas that you generate about the book can all go in the messy ideas list. It's a great place to house all of your thoughts and ideas related to your book so you never have to go to another document or find a pad of paper to remember what you were thinking. It's all contained in one place. And the beauty of it is that it really becomes your manuscript. So do you have an idea for a book? Have you thought about what you want it to include? Well, if you are planning your next book, then you might want to join me on the 100-day challenge that's going to begin on September 1st. It's really informal. There's nothing to sign up for. It just means that you've decided you want to write your book starting on September 1st. And on September 1st, if you calculate 100 days from then, it means that it will end on December 10th. Or whenever you finish your draft. Make sure you're subscribed because I'm going to talk more about the 100-day challenge in next week's video. I would really love the opportunity to walk you through writing your book. It's not as hard as you think, and if we do it together, we may both be more motivated.